All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and we're just getting underway for another day. It is Wednesday, January 10, 2024. It is our episode 488 of our proceedings on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There's a lot of different ways for you to view and listen to the broadcast. You can always listen on 99.7 FM. That's on your radio dial for you youngsters in the listening audience. You can also stream anywhere that streaming happens. We are there. Type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and you're invited to stream the program. You can also watch us on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, up and running with the F&M Bank chat line. You're invited to be a part of that as well. I'm seconds into this broadcast, and I've already been told that I'm wearing a life preserver. So there's that. You can see for yourself at Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You're invited. Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. We appreciate him. He makes a choice not to be on the TV side of things, which is why we refer to him as Headless Bell. Headless Bell does, however, participate by titling each episode of our television broadcast, and today's episode 488 is entitled
Matt Murphy Show. Hard work never killed anyone, but we are not taking the chance. Libertarian lunch, noon to 3. Never mix up a Brazilian steakhouse and a Brazilian wax.
It is the longest titles in the history of television or radio. They just keep going for some reason.
Yeah, because they're fun, and the show should be 1/3 over before you finish reading the title.
I certainly am a big believer in not working, and if I wanted to work, I would have done something other than this, because this certainly does not feel like work. It's a joy to be here on a day-to-day basis, despite the fact that I yell and scream from time to time. I expect that there will be yelling and screaming today, and I hope that you participate in said yelling and screaming. You're always invited to be a part of the show. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. That's the way to communicate with the broadcast. If you want to call in, we'll try to keep your waiting to a minimum. You may do so. I always invite that dialogue, turn a monologue into a dialogue. You can also write in on the super text line. You're invited, 615-737-9986. Let me table set for just a moment, and then we'll get into some content. So coming up at 1:30 today to tell you about an event that's happening in Davidson County, the Reagan Dinner, the annual Reagan Dinner in Davidson County for the Davidson County GOP is happening later on this month, on the 25th, as a matter of fact. I invite you to get tickets. Why? Because I'm the MC. Glenn Jacobs is the keynote speaker. Lonnie Spivak will be along to tell us about that at 1:35 this afternoon. At 2:05, fresh off his impeachment inquiry into Alejandro. Hold on, I'm going to talk to her. Don't you move anywhere. Don't you go anywhere. Hold on just a second. You don't go anywhere, pal. I'm talking to somebody off camera, by the way. Lonnie Spivak here. Mark Green at 2:05 today. Congressman Mark Green will be fresh off of his committee hearing meeting in the Homeland Security Committee with regard to Alejandro Mayorkas and whether or not he needs to be impeached. At 2:35, Tennessee General Assembly Republican Majority Leader William Lamberth will be here to talk about rules of the General Assembly and how the minority is attempting to exploit those rules. And sadly, some conservatives are falling prey to this exploitation in the spirit of, quote-unquote, transparency. So all of that is on the way on the show today. We invite you to be a part of every moment of it. You can participate in it if you desire in a variety of different ways, either through the F&M Bank chat, through the super text line, through the phone lines, etc. And we love you being here. Mason Fleming will sub in for Bell K from time to time as executive producer of this and other broadcasts. I don't know that we could function as a radio station without Mason, and he is in studio with a guest. And I wanted him the opportunity to introduce his guest. I don't know if we're supposed to be doing this or not, but we're doing it one way or the other. Hello, Mason.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. I've never been on this side of the glass before to have a conversation.
Really?
It's a little weird.
Is it intimidating?
A little bit.
Yeah. It's a little. Oh, that's you put our horn up. That's our big announcement horn. Let me show you how this works. Mason Fleming is in studio with a big announcement.
This is my first time in the actual studio ever to be on air.
And you brought a guest.
We also have a guest today. Here at the radio station, we don't have internships or job shadowing that often, but we got the okay to do so today. And
you know why, by the way, you know why we don't have internships anymore?
Why?
Because they ruled that we had to pay them.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's completely
I don't
understandable.
know that it's fair. No, actually, internships have to. This was the rule. I was actually in management when this came down. You have to pay them. However, even in paying them, you have to demonstrate as a company that your internship was a net drain on the company, that it did not benefit the company in any way. It was stupid. But anyway, go ahead.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad they're paying me. Otherwise, I feel like I'd probably be under that title.
You're no intern.
I mean,
you're an important guy.
yeah, I mean, now. But
You
I
don't
feel
dress like
starting
it, but you're an important guy.
No.
Dude,
You've seen my
seriously,
shoe choice.
sit up straight.
Me?
Sit up straight!
Me?
Yes.
What am I doing wrong?
You're slouching on the camera.
I'm not slouching.
Sit
I'm
up straight.
hunching. It's different.
Got to make sure the life vest looks good.
Okay. Don't
What,
go
don't
in on-
encourage
don't
it?
go- don't encourage that.
You don't like it?
All right, so who do you have here?
Do you care if I say your name on?
Just give her first name. Don't give her last
I'm not
name. She
going
doesn't.
to.
She doesn't
No.
need all of that in her life.
No, this is Lana. She's sitting in with us today, doing some job shadowing around the station, popping in and out, just kind of exploring further future careers, that kind of stuff. So, but they,
Lana,
yeah,
as in Lana Turner. You don't know who that is, do you? Do you want to say hello on the radio, Lana?
I can.
Okay, so
Mic's
just
open.
yeah, your mic. So just lean up. You just kind of scoot up to the mic, and yeah, just get about as close as I am. Hey, Lana,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good.
What? Where do you go to school?
Pleasant View Christian.
Say it again.
Pleasant View Christian.
Pleasant View Christian. You are a junior, senior,
Senior.
senior. What do you want to do?
I'm going to Belmont for music, commercial music.
Belmont's a nice university, lovely place. Do you live around here?
Pleasant View.
Okay. Oh,
It's-
all right.
yeah.
Well, that would make sense. So, did you decide? Well, I mean, was it a personal decision to stay close to home?
Yeah, I think so.
Or, I mean, and Belmont's a great music school, so
Yeah.
there's no
I didn't
doubt.
want to. I don't
That's
think
where
I
I
wanted
went,
to
and that's
leave.
what I did, and this is where you'll end up. So just take that.
Wait,
into
you went to
account.
Belmont?
Yes.
She can't hear you. She has no headphones on. Bell, that guy right there and there, that nobody can see on camera because he's headless. He said that he went to Belmont
For music business.
for music business.
That's
Oh, I
that's my
almost-
backup if I don't make it into the music.
That's my backup.
Okay, well, that was an option.
you're a backup career, Belle.
Never.
Bell's career is a backup plan. That's no truer words have been spoken. Thank you, Lon. Well, I mean, congratulations in having your head about you enough that you know what you want to do with your life. That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Anybody you want to say hey to?
I don't know.
I mean, none of your friends are listening to this show, so you don't have to worry about it.
I don't know that anybody would be in the position to be like listening on radio right now. So not really.
You are, if you're a senior. I mean, I don't want to get too personal here, but I expect that if you're a senior in high school, that means you're 17 to 18.
18. Yeah.
18. I'm curious, and this is maybe opening the door to personal questions, but whatever. Do you follow the news?
I follow the news about as much as any person that doesn't follow the news would. Not really. Like, I don't know. I know enough to get by, but I don't like watch the news intentionally.
All right, there are no wrong answers, no right answers with what I'm about to ask you. So I'm asking for your opinion, and I know you didn't ask for any of this, Lana, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Your opinion of our president of the United States. What is it?
He's a silly guy. He's an interesting fella. Not too coherent, but
Give me a break.
That's our little drop for Joe. Okay, no, that's good. That's good information. Because the reason I'm asking you these questions is what we do on a day. I mean, we're real close to the forest. If you've ever heard the expression, "You're too close to the forest to see the trees," right? So when you're this close to doing what we do every day, I think it's important sometimes to back out. And people that don't pay attention, like yourself. I mean, you're 18. You can vote in this upcoming election if you choose to vote. Do you think you will?
for sure. And I'll definitely look more into who is running and what they are running on and their like history and stuff. But as of right now, I'm not too into it, but I definitely will be.
What is the general impression, not necessarily yours, but the general impression about DJT, Donald Trump?
At least from like locally and what we're kind of existing in is like people may not necessarily be like fans of him, but they like his politics and they think he's a good leader and things like that.
That's exactly right, Mama. I mean, no, did she not
She's
just say?
she's the anti-fizzy.
Did Lana not just say what we say all the time? Is that generally Americans liked the way that he managed the country when he was president, but they didn't really like him?
Yeah, they didn't like the personality, but they liked the results of the policies.
She said the exact same thing. That's pretty cool. Are you, if you're into music, who are you into?
Taylor Swift's big for me.
Boy, oh boy.
I mean, I know
There's
that's
a
kind of
stunner.
the expected answer, but
Her and Dan had a great moment earlier.
Are you perhaps, did they hug it out when she talked about Taylor?
Just a good conversation.
Did Dan say the words Tay-Tay at any point?
He called himself a Swiftie.
he did do that.
She did.
It's okay. He calls himself a man, too.
Yeah.
So, Lana, when you met Dan Mandis, our illustrious leader here at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and he told you that he was a Swiftie, did that create any moment, any second of doubt in yourself as to what you're doing with your life if this guy is a fan?
No, of course not. Of
No?
course not.
What did you think? You thought that Taylor's for old people too, maybe?
I think she's for everybody.
Do you? If I wanted to listen to one Taylor, I'm not a fan. If I wanted to listen to one, because I'm an old guy, one Taylor Swift song that you think that Lana says, Matt Murphy, this one will hook you. This one will get you.
Oh my goodness. That is a really tough question. There's like a million, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cruel Summer is a really good one. It's a super popular, and it's very, it's a pretty mainstream song, but it's not like repetitive pop, whatever. Like it's a very, very well-made song. I think
That's
it's one of her best
That's her
songs.
latest #1.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's from an album that was 4 years old.
True.
Oh, because she's doing the...
The tour, it caught fire because of the tour, and so they ended up sending it to radio.
Okay, so this is not like one of those Taylor version things.
No.
Right? My wife's a big Swiftie, I guess, and so she tried to educate me on the whole Taylor version stuff. Like and I appreciate that. I mean, she's a businesswoman, and she's trying to take control of her original output, right? And that would be right in your alley, what she's doing if you're going into music business, huh? You know, you got to sign those contracts, though, right at the front end. Okay, so anything else you want to talk about?
I think so. I think I'm good.
All right, Lana, I think I'm good, too. Thank you for stopping by. You're welcome to hang out as long as you like. And please don't vote for Joe Biden. I hesitate doing that, but I'd hate myself if I don't tell you that. Just don't. Just trust me. Just when you go to the voting booth, remember that I told you this.
I will keep that in mind.
Bad move to vote for Joe Biden. Youngsters don't like Joe. Thank you, Mason.
Yeah.
Are you voting, Mason?
I am voting.
Are you now?
I am.
What do you think about this election coming up in 2024?
I plead the fifth.
Going to be a biggie, huh?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
You
This
need
year's
to
gonna
look.
be
I already
nuts.
know what he's going to do. You need to cancel out this guy's vote by voting who he's going to vote for. He's a Biden man.
Why would you
look
say
at
that?
look
Don't you
look
dare
at him.
put
All
that
the-
on the-
Look, he's like got all this hair.
No.
He's got these tattoos. We know. We see him.
Actually, they can't. They
How
actually
does
can't
that
see me right
equate to making somebody a Biden man?
I said that just because I knew. I pointed out your hair and your tattoos. What does Belle have a lot of?
now. Piercings.
Hair, tattoos, and piercings.
And piercings. 6 earrings and a nose ring.
Anything else? Prince Albert?
Not that you know of.
Prince Albert?
Not that you know of.
Oh, that's a great it's probably a good idea now that we're talking about Prince Albert's for you guys to go.
Yeah.
It's probably a good idea for all of us to go. All right, we'll get into some of the shenanigans going down at the Tennessee General Assembly coming up in just a moment. Rules and transparency in the Tennessee House and how I believe some purity conservatives are falling prey to the trap set by the Democrats, the minority Democrats in the body. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. If you're enrolled in a plan and you're not happy with your health care plan, then I have a name for you. His name is Pat Davis, and he is your health plan man. Your health plan man has a freedom of choice plan available to you if you qualify, and there are certain qualifications. He'll tell you about this when you call. Your health plan man's freedom of choice plan is puts the most coverage up front with no deductible. You pick your doctors, and this thing is 30 to 60% lower in cost than Obamacare. And oh, by the way, this plan is available year-round to those that qualify. No waiting for open enrollment. You can do this now by calling Pat Davis and your health plan man. This plan also has nothing to do with your income, so there's no surprise at tax time. I don't think you should pay the government mandates like maternity coverage if you don't have to pay the government mandates. If you pay for your own health insurance, if you're uninsured, if you're currently on COBRA, or if you currently have a coverage through your employer that's just too expensive, call 855-4PLAN-MAN, 855-4PLAN-MAN. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking that you only have a month or two to do this in the fall. That's not true. You can manage it with Pat Davis at your side. YourHealthPlanMan.com for more information. They design a plan that's managed by you, not by the government. YourHealthPlanMan.com. If you're like me, you put on a few pounds during the holidays. I don't like to admit that, but it's true. I put on a few pounds during the holidays. And now I'm getting those pounds off in January, February, March. I'm getting to a new me before the spring, a leaner me before the spring. How do I do this? Well, you have to be conscious about what you're eating. But a lot of times, a lot of the things that you eat that are good for you are not very good to put into your mouth. And so we need to figure out a way to make them better. And I have that way. Savory spice. The spice game will up that food game. And if you take Brussels sprouts or broccoli and you're not really a big fan, green beans, whatever veggies we're talking about, they have the spices that can up that food game. Oh, a bland chicken breast and not much for you? Try some of their spices at Savory Spice and they will prepare, it will help you prepare that chicken in a way that is absolutely delicious. And good for you, too. So if you're concerned about your weight, if you're concerned about your health into the new year, a good way to get on a good program is to get the spices in the kitchen that are going to up the food game and turn that bland menu into a super good menu. Savory Spice, 2 locations to serve. One's in L&L Market, that's in Nashville on Charlotte Pike. The other's in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. When you stop by, tell Holly and David, the local owners and operators of Savory Spice, that Matt Murphy said hello. And remember this. You up your food game by upping your spice game. You up your spice game at Savory Spice. Huh. I'm trying to give it a shot. This is the song she was talking about. Lana recommended Cool Summer, but sounds
Cool.
auto-tuned. Sounds auto-tuned.
No, there's an auto-tune voice in it.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Not the whole thing.
I hate auto-tune.
It's used as an effect.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's used as an effect to make voices sound better that don't really sound that good.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
It's done to. It's a male voice that the auto tune is on,
Yeah.
and it's done as a percussive effect in the background.
This just kind of lays there for me.
So
I
let
mean, I suppose it's got a beat and I could dance to it. Could I dance? But, well. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN if you'd like to be a part of the show. So, I think Matt would like Tay-Tay's 22 song. I don't know what that means, but I'm certain that
she
you're
had
probably...
a single called 22.
I'm certain that you're probably wrong. I love that. You know what? This is one thing that I hate about Taylor Swift fans. There's a lot of things. And Bell K just demonstrated it. You can't get half a word out about Taylor Swift on anything about her without a Taylor Swift fan interrupting your sentence to tell you what you don't know about Taylor Swift.
Because you need to be educated.
Thank you, Bell. Also, the fact that Bell K is a Taylor Swift fan is confusing to me. He's got multiple piercings, tattoos, long hair, yada, yada. I think he was a fan of metal for a hot minute.
Not was, still am.
I mean, what was that death metal band you went to see last year? What was it?
Well, I saw the two concerts I went to last year that I actually paid money to go see were Ghost, who are from Sweden.
Uh-huh.
They're a hard rock band.
Uh-huh.
And then Baby Metal from Japan.
Uh-huh. And then Tay-Tay.
No, I couldn't afford Tay-Tay. That's way out of my league.
If I were to give you tickets to Tay-Tay, would you go?
Oh God, I would trample you to get into the stadium.
Okay. All right. That's duly noted. I'm never going to do that, by the way, but that's duly noted. In the meantime, Jason writes in and says, if only I had been on the Titanic in this current outfit. Well, let me read it correctly. If only you would have been on the Titanic, more people would have lived. Well, yeah, I would have lived because I got my vest on. I got my Michael J. vest on today. See it at Supertalk TV. Supertalk TV found on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Episode 488 is up and running as we speak. Hello. Okay, so I'm curious what I'm... 3293, you're going to have to be a little more specific, please. Because 3293 writes in on the super text line, and I'm very curious this line of thought. Little L libertarian, bull crap. You're a big R Republican. Libertarians do not support giving up rights for any reasons. Really? That's not true. That's completely not true.
You can murder somebody if you want?
You can murder someone and walk around freely and continue to have all of your rights, 3293? I think you might want to be more specific about what you're saying right now because you sound like a complete blithering idiot. Little L libertarian, bull crap, you're a big R Republicans. Libertarians do not support giving up rights for any reasons. Okay,
but, hey, this is a good point, though. If you're not a real libertarian, unless somebody's not telling you, you're not a real libertarian.
That's actually true. That's so true. And I've always said that I'm a little L libertarian because of for two reasons. One is that there are certain aspects of the libertarian philosophy of government that I disagree with, primarily dealing with certain foreign policy issues that the libertarians I kind of diverge from. Secondarily, I don't belong to the Libertarian Party because the Libertarian Party sucks. They can't get their crap together. They've had every opportunity over the last 30 years to make inroads and become a viable third party in the United States of America, and they have spit the bit every time. Because they're sad, and sadly, we're watching as the world, and more specifically, the United States of America becomes more libertarian. The United States of America is more libertarian. Even conservatives, individuals that would describe themselves as conservatives or Republican are more libertarian today than they've ever been. And so many of the pronouncements, and none of you were around when I said them, but some of these pronouncements that I made back in the day when I was 26 years old in Montgomery, Alabama, starting my talk radio career about how things would go 20 years from now, I wish I had the tapes. because I was right. Murphy was right. Murphy was right. Murphy was right. Anyway, the nation needs to concern itself with those things that the Libertarian Party concerns themselves with, and that is physical, 2 syllables, conservatism. Only spending within our means, and only doing that, which is the government's responsibility. Rooster writes in and says, dang, Matt, you couldn't even make it 28 minutes without yelling. Rooster, when did I say I would try to do that? My loyal P1 listeners come every day for the yelling. Come on, man. Come on now.
And you were so right that I didn't even hit you with the tay-tay about calming down.
Thank you. I am curious what the author of the post means when he says that I'm not a small L libertarian because somehow I don't believe in rights for individuals. I mean, obviously, it's an easy grab to suggest to you that you're absolutely wrong with regard to the idea that you can't be denied your God-given rights for any reason. Obviously, there are plenty of reasons why you would be denied rights. Primarily by engaging in a process by which you deny rights of others and going through the judicial system, and ultimately it is decided by a jury of your peers that you have to be punished as a result of your denial of the rights of other people through force or fraud. Clearly, we can't have any of that. 615-737-9986. Coming back. So the General Assembly is currently debating the rules. I don't know if they're over or not. I don't know if the debate is over or not because liberal Democrats in the body who consistently claim that they're not getting a voice. By the way, this is hilarious to me. Justin Pearson, Justin Jones, John Ray Clemens, and Gloria Johnson, 4 Democrats, are screaming that they do not have the ability under the rules to make their voices heard to their constituencies and by extension to the entire state of Tennessee. In the meantime, those 4 people that I just mentioned that are screaming that the rules deny the minority a voice, they have spoken more than any other members of the body right now. And it's not even close. As of 10:03 this morning, speaking time, I don't know what this list is from. No, I guess it's from the current General Assembly. Justin Pearson, 3 hours, 43 minutes, and 57 seconds. John Ray Clemens, 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 51 seconds. Justin Jones, 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 26 seconds. Gloria Johnson, 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 45 seconds. So the same Democrats that are screaming that they don't have the ability to speak are speaking more than any of the Republicans who are currently in the supermajority. Secondarily, they're setting up a rules package, and the Democrats are screaming and yelling about the rules package. And look, I'm not here to defend it. I'm here to explain it, and I want to know from you whether or not you support it. We'll do that next. It's 12:33 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about your individual security, your safety, and your collective safety when it comes to your church, your school, or your place of business. Let's talk about Defend Systems. Brink Fiddler developed Defend Systems for a good reason, and sadly, the world has just gotten more dangerous in the time that he's been around in Middle Tennessee. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here. Their expertise lies in experience. They have over 2 decades of experience, and collectively, I would suggest to you that that is approaching, 50 years? I mean, with Tracy and Gloria and some of the other team members that Brink has assembled, good people all, smart in their approach to your workplace safety or your school safety or your church safety. They deal in active shooter response training, workplace violence, site surveys and threat assessment, security improvement, emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response, all customized to your facility. 615-236-6484, 236-6484. Go to defendsystems.com. That's defendsystems.com for more information about how they can serve you. If you are a decision maker in a place of business, in a school or a church, you know that the possibility of you experiencing workplace violence or school violence or church violence is very low, but it's not zero. Hope is not a plan. It's time to get trained with Defend Systems. It is Super Talk. WTN 99.7 on the FM dial. We're streaming wherever you might go. Oh, by the way, speaking of going places, do not forget that Brian Wilson is heading out to Iowa Monday. We're very excited about this. Our own Brian Wilson and The Drive will be broadcasting from Iowa on Caucus Day this coming Monday, the 15th, I guess it is. That's right, the 12th. Yeah, the 15th. So Brian will be out there. I'm going to be subbing in for Brian. He's driving back on Tuesday, so I'll be in for The Drive Tuesday, not in my normal position. I don't know who will be here. I think it's Joan Jones, maybe Pamela Farr. I don't know.
Why would we know that?
One way or the other. It's all good. One way or the other. That's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is to make sure that you're listening in, you're tuning in to Brian's on-the-scene reporting all day long. He will be doing his show, but he'll also be reporting on my show and others. And this is in part, in no small part, thanks to Busy Bee, and thank you to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project for their sponsorship of this event. Busy Bee and Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project generously helping us make this possible to you as Brian Wilson heads out to Iowa for the Iowa caucuses this coming Monday. On the scene reporting from Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our number, 615-737-9986. Philip writes in and says that I'm going around and round in circles like a little puppy dog on the super text line. He says, I'm just jabbering round and round like a kid who's had too much Mountain Dew. That's every day on the show, by the way. And I'm getting some additional information as to how I am not really a libertarian, which is always good. I love it when people tell me what I really believe because they know better than me. Because I'm me and they're them.
Well, see, the reason I know you're not a real libertarian is because you don't tell other people they're not real libertarians.
Okay, that makes sense. So if I were to find real libertarians and tell them they're not real libertarians.
You have never once told me I'm not a real libertarian, and that offends me.
Because if I were a real libertarian, we would get into regular arguments about your
Yes.
libertarianism. Yeah. And also I say small L, and that ticks off the libertarians. But 3449 writes, it's definitely a joke for you to call yourself any kind of libertarian for a million reasons. And then he says, those four have an argument. He's talking about the liberal Democrats that I just mentioned, because it's often that it's true that voices get squashed. Ask Bruce Griffey or Representative Warner or a number of others who get shut down by leadership every year. And this is why you're not in any way a libertarian. Someone fighting for liberty would call out anyone who uses their power to control debate. You just side with whoever isn't a Democrat regardless of their anti-liberty stance. That is, A, not true, and B, let me explain to you what's going on. The body sets the rules, okay? So 3449, hear me clearly. The members of the House of Representatives set the rules for the House of Representatives, and they vote on it. Explain to me how you want to do it differently that accomplishes what you claim you want to accomplish. Now, if you want to argue that they ought to have more than 5 minutes, that's fine. I don't care. But there have to be rules. What the Democrats are arguing is that the rules should change based on what the Democrats want at any given second, at any given moment of any given day. Now, I'm going to get into the voting in committee in just a moment, and I do have a disagreement with leadership on committee votes, which is where this narrative about transparency is coming from. So let's dive into this. The Bullhorn Brigade, and they're joined by a few others like John Ray Clements, they are suggesting that what the Republicans are doing in the General Assembly is anti-democratic, that it doesn't lend itself to giving them a voice. They have just as much voice as anyone else. Are we on the same page there? There are not separate rules in the House of Representatives for Democrats or Republicans. Now, Democrats are in the minority, and oftentimes Democrats don't get their way because Democrats are in the minority. And if you want to get your way in a representative republic, the way you do that is to win elections and become the majority. And if you're in the majority, you get to do what you want to do, and you can tell the minority to pound sand at that point. Until then, shut up and sit down and abide by the rules. It's not hard. I'm not certain exactly how they would want any of this to change because they won't tell us. All they will tell us is that the rules of the House of Representatives are somehow anti-democratic. What we have learned is that they want to change voting practices in committee, and I want to talk with you about that. And I understand this is deep in the weeds on rules, but you're going to hear a lot about this over the next 24, 48 hours, about how the Republicans don't want transparency and the Republicans are trying to hide the way that they're voting. I think in large part that is untrue, but there is a small area that I would find agreement with some that are suggesting the rules should be changed. Here's how. So it's all about voice votes and how they vote in committee. When a bill gets to the floor of the House of Representatives, they have electronic voting in the House of Representatives, and each member's vote is recorded electronically. So you or I have every opportunity to go and look how your individual representative voted on any measure that goes before the House floor. And obviously that's the way that it should be. Now, I asked a question last evening of several in leadership as to whether or not there are ever any voice votes on the floor. And I was told that there were ceremonial voice votes on the floor. These are often commendations or recognition of individual Tennesseans and whatnot. These are non-controversial measures that are voted on in voice. There are also some procedural measures that happen by voice vote. But voting on any bill on the floor of the House of Representatives is done electronically, and it is a recorded vote. What the leftists are arguing, and David Ritchie, who is a Republican, took this argument up and ran with it. What he was arguing is that you should have roll call votes in committee on everything. Now, oftentimes I lean on Bell as I'm explaining something, and I'm going to do this time too, Bell. I want to make sure that I'm being clear on what I'm explaining. In a committee, Robert's Rules of Order, that's typically what you say when you talk about the rules of a body. But the rules of order indicate that members of a committee, and, sometimes it's a committee of 10, sometimes it's a committee of 20. I think rules has like 26 members on it or something or another. But anytime you're in a committee, there are a lot of measures by which I can take to move debate in different directions. I can offer a motion to table, or I can offer a motion to amend, or I can offer a motion to there are motions galore that I can offer as a member of the committee. What Justin Jones and some of the political left want to do is they want to force roll call votes on every single motion in committee. Do you understand how much money that would cost you? Right now, voice votes are allowed in committee. Voice votes on motion and voice votes on getting bills out of committee. More on that in a moment because I think that's different. If you force a roll call vote, and what a roll call vote means is you have to go through the Bell K.
It's like when they voted on Speaker.
Right.
If you watched any of that on C-SPAN.
That's a great example. If you watch that, that's what we're talking about. You go through the entire roll of the committee that you're talking about, and there are unlimited motions that can be brought up. If you have a Democrat that wants to bring a motion and some Democrat wants to second that motion, there are unlimited ways that they could quag the system. And this is what they want to do, I am told. They are trying to turn the regular session into something that lasts until August. Now, if it's up to you to decide, I'm not telling you how to feel about any of this. What I'm telling you is the reality of what will happen if this rule goes through. The Democrats will flood the zone with motions. They will demand a roll call vote on every motion in every committee in the General Assembly, and this legislative session will last until August. And that will cost every taxpaying citizen more money, and it will accomplish nothing. If that is what you want, okay, that's fine. Because some purity conservatives are now suggesting that all of this is about transparency. And here's what I'd say about that. If you want to change the rule, right now, they allow voice votes to get a bill out of committee and to the floor of the House. Once again, this is incredibly weedy, and y'all tell me if it's too deep in the weeds for you. Right now, a voice vote can get a bill to the floor. And a lot of people are suggesting that that's wrong. And I would happen to agree with that. I don't have a problem with a roll call vote moving a bill from committee to the floor. But the problem is that there are different measures by which you could do that. You can table. You can make a motion to table. Is that killing a bill? Is that moving a bill forward? There's a lot of debate going on there. Bottom line is this. If you want to require a roll call vote in order to move a bill from committee to the floor, I don't have a problem with that. Right now, the system is this. And this is the part that I wanted to make sure I'm explaining clearly, Bell. There are recorded votes in the House of Representatives from committee rooms. Here's the way they do it. They do a voice vote. By the way, the sponsor of a bill can call for a roll call vote under the current rules. The 3 members of the committee can call for a roll call vote under the current rules. And the chairman of any committee can call for a roll call vote under the current rules. If the voice vote seems too close to call, the sponsor or any members of the body can demand a roll call vote at that time. And they will get one, presumably by the chairman. So there are ways to get roll call. But every vote that comes out of committee is listed on the House of Representatives website. And here's the way they do that. The prevailing vote, meaning the vote that wins, you are considered a yay vote. You are considered to be on the prevailing side unless you object to the chairman and record your vote as the non-prevailing vote. Okay? That's the way that it currently is. But the upshot is this. If you give the minority, the Democrats, who number, 24 members? I think it's 75 or 76 to 24 right now. If you give them the authority to demand a roll call vote on every single measure in the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives is going to be in session until July. And every day that they're in session, they waste our money. You're right, 3449. The sponsors can request a roll call vote at the time that they present the legislation. I don't understand what you don't understand about what I just said. Well, if they don't ask, and this was Richie's call. So 3449 is demonstrating to me. I mean, I don't know. So, yes, 3449 says they won't be in session until July. The Democrats will demand a roll call vote on every measure. And, yes, you're right that David Ritchie got his panties in a wad because he said that he was intimidated to ask for a roll call vote. I know exactly what you're talking about, 3449. Ritchie doesn't want to ask for a roll call vote because he doesn't have the damn stones to do so. Well, I expect that you will have the stones to do so. If you need a roll call, ask for a roll call if you're the sponsor of a bill. So that's the weeds on that. If you want to demand a vote of the committee, I don't have a problem with that. Demanding a vote on every motion and every measure, a roll call vote on every motion and every measure within committee, you're quagging the system to the point that you're going to bog it down. If that's what you want, that's fine. If you want that, I'm just telling you what you're going to get. You're going to get a session that lasts until July. Because they have a lot of measures to get out. And the Democrat game plan here, the Justin Jones, David Ritchie game plan. By the way, they came up with this together. Representative Justin Jones and Representative David Ritchie worked together. Prove me wrong on this measure. David Ritchie admitted as much that he talked to Justin Jones about this. And I believe it's a Justin Jones joint effort with Ritchie in order to quag the system. I don't think that Ritchie knows what he's doing, but I most certainly think that he is doing the bidding of Justin Jones and the rest of the Democrats. So if y'all want to get duped by the distinct minority in the General Assembly, have at it. I don't have a problem with that. Secondarily, on the issue of the gallery, and I'm not telling you that I don't have a problem with this either way. And once again, I don't have a problem with roll call votes in committees. I'm telling you what will happen if you have roll call votes on every measure in committee. I'll get into gallery viewing and ticketing in just a moment because there's some misrepresentation about what's going on in the General Assembly there, too. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. Would love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. Stand by. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. I don't know if you've heard the weather forecast for the next several days, but it is going to get cold this weekend and perhaps snow Monday. Now, if your heater's not operating as it should, you probably already know that. If it is struggling to keep up with the air that you want inside of your home versus the cool air outside, it's time to call Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. I like to say if your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy. If you're trying to make a decision about whether to repair or replace your system, Jeff is a great voice in that regard. Now, if you've made the mistake and not called him first and you called someone else and they're telling you to put a $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 system in your home, it's time to call Jeff Eddy for a second opinion. He can tell you whether or not there's life left in that unit. He's not going to try to upsell you on something. He simply tells you the reality of what's going on with your heater system. So they're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric if you want to go the electric route. They're also an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. They can assist you for your needs. Call Jeff Eddy. And Efficient Heating and Cooling, efficienthvac.net, or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1259, running out of time in hour number 1, the Libertarian Lunch. I've had fun. I hope you have as well. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be a part of the show, we invite you to do so either via phone call or text. We'll continue the weedy discussion about the rules of the General Assembly, a plan in place to try to circumvent said rules from the Democrats. We'll also talk about Anthony Fauci, Hunter Biden on the Hill, Alejandro Mayorkas under fire in an impeachment inquiry in the Homeland Security Committee. All to come.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. A debate erupted at the Oversight Committee today when Hunter Biden made a surprise appearance at the hearing. It comes as the Judiciary Committee is set to take up a resolution to hold Biden in contempt for defying a subpoena to sit for a closed-door deposition last month. Biden says he wants to testify publicly. ABC's Selena Wang has more.
Significant him coming here and again driving home that point that I will speak freely to the public. I do not want my words twisted. We don't want Hunter Biden's words twisted and his lawyer's words behind closed doors, mischaracterized, manipulated, taken out of context.
We are 5 days out from the Iowa caucuses. Tonight, GOP candidates will hit the debate stage in the Hawkeye state. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, the only two candidates who will be on stage. ABC's Rachel Scott is in Des Moines.
Not on the stage tonight, Donald Trump, of course, or former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Trump will be holding a separate town hall. Christie not campaigning in this state at all. He's going all in on New Hampshire, still vowing to stay in the race despite falling behind Haley and that latest poll.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank and also held talks in Bahrain, the latest stop on his sweeping Middle East trip to tamp down on tensions in the region and keep the Israel-Hamas war from spreading.
Antony Blinken in Bahrain on where he thinks we are after more than 3 months now of bloodshed.
It's clear that countries around the region are seized with the need, first of all, to prevent the conflict from spreading, but also to design a better path forward for the region as a whole, and particularly for Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But talk is one thing. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu completely rejects the concept of a Palestinian state. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
Blinken condemned the largest Houthi attack in the Red Sea overnight. The White House, though, has not said how the U.S. will respond to the Iran-backed militant attack. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. PAI Medical Group has a time-tested multi-unit hair grafting procedure that I want to tell you about. Gentlemen, if you want to look and feel better about yourself in 2024, if you're frustrated with a little bit of hair loss and it just keeps going and you keep losing the hair or it keeps thinning out, well, It's time to get with PAI Medical and We Grow Hair. Check out their website, wegrowhair.com. That's wegrowhair.com. I'll give it to you again at the end of the conversation. Trust me, your looks are important, obviously. You don't want to go to anybody else. You don't want to go to the fly-by-night companies. We Grow Hair and PAI Medical has been in our community for 26 years. And they are backed by the only company that I would trust to help your thinning hair with their hair transplant procedures. We Grow Hair has a different type of approach to getting this done. I've been there. I've been examined. They looked through my hair. They saw my hair follicles, said I was doing A-OK. I'm going to have some laser treatment to make sure that everything continues to be A-OK with regard to my hair, because the last thing I want to lose is my hair because I got a bumpy head. WeGrowHair.com. That's WeGrowHair.com. Amazing results. Schedule a free private consultation today. 615-376-6010. 376-6010. Men, you don't have to lose your hair. They've got it. WeGrowHair.com. Back after it, Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Lively Libertarian Lunchtime Hour. 2 more to go before we hand off to Brian Wilson in the drive. Episode 488 is in progress. Don't forget, Lonnie Spivak, who is the head of the GOP in Davidson County. They've got a Reagan dinner coming up later on this month. He'll stop by to tell us about that at 1:35 this afternoon. Congressman Mark Green expected at 2:05. And that is dependent on how long their committee lasts. They are currently in Homeland Security Committee meetings, and a hearing is ongoing about whether or not to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. We will continue to talk about that, and we will certainly speak to that with Congressman Mark Green coming up at 2:05 this afternoon. At 2:35, and I don't mean to load everything on the back end, but it was, a scheduling matter. At 2:35 this afternoon, Majority Leader William Lamberth will talk about the rules package that was passed today or will be passed today. I don't know if it's passed yet, on the floor of the House of Representatives, and how some Democrats, some Republicans are frustrated with some of the rules. By the way, no rules are being changed. The rules are being carried forward from the last General Assembly in terms of committee votes and floor votes. Once again, I want to reiterate this. I don't have a problem if you want to change the rules in committee to have a voice, every vote happen on a roll call vote. That's fine. I would propose, and I will to William Lamberth, that they make a rule that final passage out of committee to the floor be a roll call vote, and everything else remain the way that it is in terms of motions and all of that. The way that the Democrats are trying to play this, they want to clog the pipes with garbage. So if you make a motion to table, they want a roll call vote on table. If you want a motion to amend, they make a roll call vote on amend. And, you throw as many amendments at the table as you can, and they want a roll call vote. This is the Jones, Johnson, Pearson, Clemens cabal that I think are making this play in the House of Representatives. Some conservatives suddenly are concerned about transparency. Purity conservatives who don't exist in the body are suggesting that some conservatives are trying to be non-transparent in terms of how they vote in committee. And if that's the case, then I would think that this would put the steam out of that by saying, okay, well, any bill that comes out of committee, then you have a final vote tally there, and it's a roll call vote, and you move on. And you don't have to have a roll call vote on every motion to amend or motion to table or whatever. I mean, I would think that this would make sense to most people. Secondarily, there's a lot of conversation. And once again, this is about the General Assembly, and I understand it's very much politically weedy. And so I'm not trying to get down there, where the goats can graze on it in a way that people's eyes glaze over. I apologize if I'm doing that. But I think these things are important because in my opinion, some conservatives are falling prey to the trap being set by the Democrats. And Gary, dadgummit, I was going to Gary. He held for so long, and then he went away. Gary, call me back. I'll get to you. The rules about gallery viewing, Justin Jones and other Democrats are making a lot of claims about the anti-democratic Republican Party because they are limiting who can come into the gallery and who can't come into the gallery. I'm just going to tell you what the rules are, and then I'm curious what your thoughts on it are. So they've changed the nature of how you enter the gallery slightly. You've got an east side and a west side of the gallery, the upper area where the public is allowed to go in and watch the sausage be made. I spoke to several members of leadership about the changes that have been made in this regular session and why those happened. And here's what I found out. The east side of the gallery is open to the public. Anybody that wants to go into the east side of the gallery, all you have to do is go, line up, first come, first serve. Once they're full, they're full. But that is open to the public. You don't have to have a ticket. You don't have to have anything. You show up, go through the metal detectors, line up, and you can go up to the east side of the gallery and you're fine. On the west side of the gallery, that's where the media assembles. There's a media space for the west side of the gallery. There are cameras and whatnot that are up there. And on that side, because they have some open space over there, they are ticketing the west side of the gallery. And here's why. If you, the reason is, and some are calling it an excuse, if you have a group, for example, of 5 people from a school, and you want to go and view the proceedings in the gallery in the General Assembly, how do you do that? Let's say you have a homeschool group that you're in charge of, and you want to take 4 of your homeschoolers to the General Assembly to watch a session of the General Assembly. How do you do that? Right now, how do you do that? Well, right now, you go and you line up and you hope. You hope that you get there early enough to get in line, to get in front of a lot of these activists and whatnots, and you hope that you have an ability to get into the gallery. What the Republican leadership, what they claim they're doing, and once again, I know that a lot of you don't like them and a lot of you are concerned about this, that, and the other thing, and you can hate this if you want. They are giving each member a ticket to the gallery that will be distributed by their individual caucus. So the Republicans get roughly, I think, 75 or 76. The Democrats get 24 or thereabouts tickets. And those tickets are managed by the Republican and the Democrat caucus. And those are all seats on the west side of the gallery. Once again, east side of the gallery, wide open. West side of the gallery, media and ticketed individuals. This is so that school organizations or special interest groups can plan to go to the gallery and they can expect to have a seat and they don't have to wait hours in line to get a seat. So here's how that would functionally work. If I'm an activist organization, let's say I'm Black Lives Matter, and I want to bring 10 of my individuals up to the gallery to protest these dastardly Republicans. Well, in this scenario, I don't have to wait in line and I don't have to worry about the off chance that I don't get a spot on the east side, which is always open to the public every day. First come, first serve. I can call the Democrat caucus and say, hey, I want to come down and protest. And as long as the Democrats are as long as they haven't already used the tickets for that particular day, they can use the tickets, give you the tickets. You have tickets in advance. These are free tickets, obviously. These are not paid tickets. And you can go to the west side of the gallery that way. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just trying to explain it to you because I think there's been a misrepresentation that they're trying to ticket the entire gallery. Now, the problem is that there is limited space in the Tennessee Capitol. I've been to the gallery on a number of occasions. I've seen the lack of space. And sometimes for the more debatable or contentious issues, there are more people that want to get to the gallery than there is gallery space. And I feel like the only way you do that, you have overflow rooms, but that's not good enough for some of these organizations. Or you do something like this to try to make sure that everyone in the state of Tennessee, I mean, think about how disappointing it would be if a school group from, I don't know, Bristol or Knoxville traveled to Nashville in order to be in the gallery and they weren't allowed in the gallery because these activist organizations and whatnot were already taking up all of the space. And so they just have to, sit outside and tour the Capitol and go home. This gives representatives in their individual districts the ability to schedule seats for them in order for them to gain access. I don't know if that's good enough for y'all or not. Let's find out. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. 3449. Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. So anyway, if you have any thoughts on that or any response to that, that's where we are on gallery viewing. So the Democrats are suggesting that they're trying to ticket everyone. That's not true. East side is still open. West side is for media. I think lobbyist organizations and certain groups, special interest groups, have access on the west side too. I don't know enough about that to make a comment on it. I know that looks shady, and I don't particularly like special interest organizations getting in front of the average folks, but this ticketing process makes sense. By the way, the ticketing process is what happens in the United States House of Representatives on a daily basis. You have to prearrange a visit to the House gallery. Last time I went, you could not just show up and go into the gallery because those spaces are extremely limited as well. In terms of the media is moaning and complaining because certain members of the media are not allowed on the floor of the House of Representatives. They have limited space on the floor because of COVID. COVID changed the way that they do their business on the floor of the House. They moved desks away from one another. They also had to get into compliance with ADA regulations regarding a couple of the members who have some ADA issues on the floor of the House of Representatives. And so they're allowing fewer cameras on the floor. That's my understanding. And so some of those cameras have been moved to the gallery balcony, and the media is pissed off about that. So that's what I can tell you about that. 615-737-9986. 8134 says, can we wish Pamela Furr an early happy birthday? By the way, you can wish Pamela Furr a birthday wish in person because I found out she will be, Pamela told me as a matter of fact, she will be subbing in for me Tuesday as I sub in for Brian Wilson on Tuesday as he comes back from Iowa, his visit in Iowa being sponsored, as a part of the caucus, being sponsored by Busy Bee and the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. 615-737-9986. Okay, so that's enough. Rules, procedures, etc. We'll save the rest of that for our conversation with William Lamberth, unless you have thoughts or comments on it. Once again, I do not see the boogeyman that a lot of people see with regard to committee votes, voice votes in committee that don't have anything to do with the final passage of the bill. I believe that if the Republicans in charge in the House of Representatives want to bend over backwards to demonstrate their transparency, they should require a roll call vote on final passage of bills out of committee. Period. There's already a recorded vote when it passes out of the House of Representatives off the floor. I don't have a problem with requiring a roll call vote when it's time for final passage of a bill out of committee. There have been suggestions that has some issues with it as well. Whatever. I don't care about all of that. What I don't want to see, I don't want to see the minority party in the state of Tennessee, that would be the Democrats, 24 strong or thereabouts in the House, take over the body by quagging it down and demanding a roll call vote on every single. Now, I'm not talking on the floor. I'm talking about in committee. Demanding a roll call on every single decision made in committee, every procedural decision, every motion, every, hey, let's take lunch, whatever it might be. It does not serve the people of Tennessee to stretch out the session in that fashion. 2305, those allowed seats should be a part of a group affected by any of the subject matter on the agenda for that day. I hear you. I would assume that people can make some decisions a couple of days in advance about. I don't know that we know on a day-to-day basis what is going to be discussed or debated on the floor of the House of Representatives. I think it would be a little bit difficult to determine when and if it's time for those groups. Those groups just have to guess more than anything as to when their measures are going to be debated, as to when they get a seat in the gallery. Jason wants to know if I covered the ticket for the gallery. I don't know what that means. He said, Bell, did he cover the ticket for the gallery?
I think he's asking if you paid for it, which it's a bad joke because they're costing.
Oh, I see.
But then again, I could be wrong. So Jason, let us know.
Yeah, Jason. I will. I'll tell you what I'll do, Jason. For you though, just to show you what kind of guy I am. If and when they do ticket the gallery, I will cover all expenses for that ticket for you, buddy. Just for you.
Does that include the cost of driving there and lunch before you go in? And
Ixnay on the Ost K. No, we're covering the ticket. I feel like that's good enough. You get yourself there, and the ticket's covered by me. 119 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about your safety. Let's talk about what you do to protect yourself and your family. Perhaps you've decided to become a gun owner. Well, good for you. I'm all in support of that. I'm also in support of you contacting Mark from the Safe House and finding out how he can help you keep those things safe that keep your family and your property safe. I'm talking about a gun safe from Nashville Safe House. That's what I'm talking about. Nashville Safe House has more safes than you can possibly shake a stick at. They have well over 200 on the showroom floor most days, unless they've sold a bunch of them the day before, right? So if you stop by on 4th Avenue South, you'll see an incredible selection of safes, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. They have double what you see on the showroom floor. They have double that in their warehouse. And so after 30 years in business, they've learned a couple of things. One, Mark knows that you want great value with your safe and you want professionals delivering that. And he covers both of those issues like the morning dew. Number two, he understands that people are different and what you want out of a safe will be different from one customer to the next. So he wants to make sure that he has what you need on his showroom floor in stock with no waiting, and he certainly does that. The best selection of safes really certainly in the Southeast and probably in the nation is at Nashville Safe House. They offer exclusive Browning safe models that are not available in other stores. Find out more about that. Browning, what a great rebate they've had going on. And Mark's got them at the Nashville Safe House. NashvilleSafeHouse.com or 4th Avenue South in Nashville. Stop by and say that I told you to come to Nashville Safe House. George has written me. Says, for a communist carpetbagger that snuck over our southern border, are you sure you know a lot about our government? I'm learning, my man. I'm learning. Look, I'm open for different interpretations as to what I've just told you regarding the ticketing. I want to go over it one more time so folks understand. The purpose of ticketing the west side of the gallery and offering a selection of basically 100 seats, they allocate one per representative. But those representatives have control in as much as they talk to their individual caucuses. What my understanding is that you can pool tickets together. So if you have a group, for example, of 5 or a group of 10, the Republican caucus has an allocation of, 75 tickets. They check the docket that day, and if there are enough tickets and your representative is all good with it, you've contacted their office, they say, hey, I need 5 tickets. Can I get some tickets that aren't being used? That's the way that works on that side of the gallery. That side of the gallery is also open for some lobbyists. I don't know how many seats that would cover. And frankly, the lobbyists are the least of my concerns. They have access. They've always had access. And if we want to limit their access, then, they can claim that they're members of the public or whatever. The media has access on that side of the gallery as well. And then on the east side of the gallery, on the east gallery, that's open for everyone. So one side of the gallery is first come, first serve. The other side is, for scheduling purposes, going to be ticketed. It's a free ticket. So if I'm being naive, I'm welcome to be criticized. I'm happy to have you explain to me why this system is not better for the people of the state of Tennessee who want to go and see their government in action. If I want to schedule something for next month, how do I do that without planning on being in line 5 hours in advance of the session to make sure that I get in front of these loudmouth activists that are oftentimes in the gallery ahead of certain constituencies in certain areas of the state of Tennessee? It seems to me a decent compromise position, and it seems to me that many in television news in our Nashville community are misrepresenting what's happening. And there's a lot of people that think that the entire gallery is ticketed now, and that's not true. One side's not. One side, in part, is the parts that aren't being used by media and other quote-unquote VIPs. 3449 says, if it dies in committee on roll call vote, that's its last hearing. I've been personally screwed on this with a piece of legislation I wrote, sponsored by a Republican, co-sponsored by probably 26 other Republicans. I don't know who you are, so 3449, if you want to tell me who you are, then that might help the conversation along. I went back to the chairman of the chair after the fact with statements saying they voted in favor, proving I won the vote. The Republican chair literally looked me in the face and told me that he didn't, quote, give a bleep. Well, you need to tell me who that Republican was, because if that's happening to you, then that's wrong, and we need to cast that Republican out. Cast him down with the sodomites, as the phrase goes. I've seen what's happening now happen before, in that when you have a minority party that has no real control and no real ability to control agenda, then you oftentimes see a schism amongst Republicans. This is Republican on Republican violence, a lot of this. My point is this. With regard to voting in committee, which is being done the same way that it's always been done, right? They have changed no rules regarding how to vote in committee. Why are Republicans just today screaming and yelling about transparency? They're doing so because the Democrats are screaming and yelling about transparency. I believe that those purity conservatives are being duped into Republican on Republican violence or conservative on conservative violence. For what purpose? Explain to me who these boogeymen are that are in control. I mean, if you don't like Cameron, I get it. I've been as critical as anyone on radio with Cameron Sexton and how he handled the special session and how he handled the end of the General Assembly. Part of this is an effort to get more control over the chaos that existed. We scream and yell that we don't like the chaos. They try to get in front of the chaos, and then you scream and yell about transparency. It seems, if I didn't know any better, I would think that certain non-elected purity conservatives will never be satisfied with the Republicans who are in positions of power in the state of Tennessee. The measure by which you create a dynamic to get those in power that you believe will do it the right way happens at the ballot box. And the rules are voted on by the entirety of the body. So if you have great issue or take umbrage with the rule that allows voice votes in committee, then are you taking that up with your representative, I would ask. And if you're not, then I would encourage you to do that. I think it's a good idea. These Democrats are agents of chaos, and they want to further the schism between Republicans. They win that way. Justin Jones wins when Republicans are screaming and yelling at other Republicans in the halls of the General Assembly. That's all I want you to know. And if you think I'm being naive, so be it. I'm trying to advance good agendas that will better the lives of Tennesseans. That's all I want.
This is probably a really stupid question that I'm going to embarrass myself with, but any constituent can call up or go on the website and get a copy of the rules, right?
Yes.
So those are readily available, and you can see anything they've passed.
Yes. I mean, and what they do, and I want to describe it to you one more time. So it's a little confusing. Once again, I would agree with you that they should have a roll call vote on final passage, but that's a little bit of a sticky wicket, and I don't want to get into the weeds, because what is final passage? A motion to table, is that final passage? Is that a vote for final passage or not? You know what I mean? If you start getting into the rules of order, then you start getting sticky about what's a vote and what's not a vote. But I don't have a problem with a vote for final passage being a roll call vote. The way they do it now, like when they have a final vote on a bill out of committee, they ask for yays and they ask for nays. And the chairman determines who wins of the yays and the nays. Whoever the prevailing side is, it is assumed that you on the committee voted for the prevailing side unless you correct the record. It is up to the individual representative to stand up and say, I'm recorded as a nay on that. Let's say the yays win. Let's say we're voting Bel K for president of the world. And why wouldn't we? And we've got a committee of 20 people. And we say, okay, the vote to make Bel K the king and president of the world to infinity is now. Yays? And you hear like one voice, which is Belle's. Yay. And nays? Nay!
It would have been more like, yeah!
The nays have it. And the nays have it. Now, if you want to challenge that vote, then you have the right to say, Mr. Chairman, I challenge the vote. I don't think the nays had it. You can do that. Or once the vote happens, and let's say the nays overwhelmingly defeat the yays, and obviously they would, Bell, if he's a member of the committee, can stand up and say, I want it on the record that I was a yay vote on that. And they will put it on the record, and they put it up on the website. You are presumed that you have voted on the prevailing side unless you choose to note that you were not on the prevailing side, which avoids certain levels of corruption. Once again, I don't have a problem with final passage votes being roll call votes. I just know I'm telling you what the Democrats are trying to do, and you can believe me or not. They are trying to clog the system. They want the pipes to back up. They want to create chaos. It's their one and only and sole purpose in the legislative process. And several Republicans, David Ritchie among them, have taken the bait. It is 1:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I've spent the better part of an hour talking about the rules of the General Assembly. I feel like I need a shower. It's 138 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just want to put a final nail in this conversational coffin. If you want to get involved in it, if you think I'm being hopelessly naive, if you believe that if there are subversive snake-like elements in the Republican Party embedded in leadership that are trying to do the bidding of Democrats or something along those lines, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear you at 615-737-9986. I don't have a problem with certain votes being taken by voice in the House of Representatives so long as we get a vote on record for final passage of any bill passing out of the legislature. I want that. Secondarily, I am perfectly willing to give you the idea of a roll call vote for passage out of a committee. What I would strongly urge you to consider is that if you give the minority the ability to demand a roll call vote on every single thing that happens in the legislative process, it is going to be a tremendous waste of your money. No different outcome, tremendous waste of your money. And for those that call for transparency, I think votes out of committee would be transparent enough if that's what you honestly want. I would suggest that certain conservatives feel like the wrong people are in leadership in the House of Representatives. And to that I say, well, who voted them there? Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to take up our time with Lonnie Spivak. Lonnie Spivak is the head honcho over the Davidson County GOP Nashville on Twitter, or the X machine as I call it. And he joins us in studio today to talk about an event that's happening later on this month, and I'm a part of, and I'm proud to be so. Hey, Lonnie.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
I'm good. Is your world like this all the time, where you're dealing with a lot? I mean, you deal in Davidson County with a lot of blue, and you're like a little speckles of red.
Yeah, and actually, I spoke with State Chairman Scott Golden about this. He's like, this is the kind of time of year we're just kind of hanging on. There's so much of it that's out of our control right now. Like, we don't have control of what all the candidates doing, what all their campaigns are doing, and we're kind of holding on, waiting to see how things pan out right now.
So tell me the state of the Republican Party in Davidson County.
Davidson County has a growing Republican Party, I'm happy to say. Over the last year, when I took over, we've been raising money, we've been holding events, we've purchased our own data set and donated it to all of our candidates who are running for office, so they have means for door knocking and all that other stuff. So we're really starting to put infrastructure in place to help those who identify as Republicans in Davidson County to run for office. And that's been a big reason why I decided to run.
How long have you been head honcho?
It's almost been 1 year. I took over in February of 23.
Why in the world?
I know. People keep saying congratulations.
I mean, I'm glad
not
you are. I mean, because I love you being in that position, because I think there are more, I mean, not interrupt your answer, but yeah. I think there are far more Republicans in Davidson County than we would think at first blush. We call it a blue dot in a red state, but there are a lot of red dots within that blue dot.
And that's a good thing, because one of the things that we have been focusing on over this last year is how to get more Republicans out to vote for the local elections, which has really been, as you know, from the last mayoral election, it's just really been tough to get, the more than 100,000 Republicans in Davidson County out to the polls, especially in those local elections. So we've identified about 40,000 Republicans who are only voting in the presidential election. That's all they're doing. Mm-hmm. And we're putting together a vote local campaign to convince those people that it's how important it is the local elections are. Because, again, how many times has the president of the United States told you how many chickens your neighbor could have, or done anything about the traffic flow or potholes in your neighborhood? And, or the school board for that matter. And it really is so important at the local level to come out and vote your values. And that's where we've been missing lately.
You and I have talked about this from time to time at events that we get together at. And I don't remember your answer, so I'll ask it again. Did the redrawing of district lines and creating a new District 5, did that help you as Davidson County GOP, or did it hurt you?
I mean, now Davidson County has 3 Republican congressmen, so I would like to say that was helpful for us, where we have some actual representation in Washington that meet our values, where under Jim Cooper we really didn't have that. The redistricting of the council seats is we're still kind of up in the air whether they go from 40 to 20, and then what those lines look like. I'm sure there'll be court fights along the way on how all that goes. So we're not sure how that's going to work out yet, but I personally am happy to see the council reduced from 40 to 20.
You expect that will happen?
I talked to the Attorney General Scrimetti about that, and if his team says that they're fairly confident that they're going to win, I tend to believe him in that matter.
How focused are you? And I know he was just reelected as district attorney, but we talk often about crime. Primarily, when we discuss crime in Tennessee, we point out Memphis, obviously. We point out Nashville. We point to a lesser degree Knoxville, Chattanooga. But really, it's Memphis and Nashville that get pointed to with regard to a lack of prosecution or soft on crime type prosecution from the DAs. I know it just happened, I guess, in the last year that there was a re-election, but how focused are you, or are you focused at all on that?
Well, we're focused to the extent that legislation coming down the pike that will give the state attorney general more leeway in what he can pursue and prosecute in the event that the local attorney generals decide not to prosecute crimes like human trafficking. We're real interested in that, but, he's going to be our attorney general for the next, I think, 8 years. It's a 10-year term from what I remember. And so it's hard to spend
10-year term?
Yeah, it's hard to spend a lot of energy on
that's
that.
Just I didn't realize.
It's a long term.
You just delivered news to me, and it just hurt my soul. It just hurt me around the guts.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was that long.
So there's a couple things. So Senator Pody has a bill that's in his committee that they tabled until this year, which will get rid of the runoff elections, which I'm really for. I think this last round in Nashville, we probably would have picked up 2 seats in the Metro Council, 2 additional seats in the Metro Council had that law gone into effect this past year. But going forward, it's something that's in his committee, and I really hope that he looks at that and gets that passed out of committee this time around.
We invited Lonnie on because there's a great event happening later on this month, and we'll get to that event in just a moment. But, it occurs to me that as we talk about Republicans in our Middle Tennessee area, the zone that we cover on Super Talk, and it's a huge signal, it's a huge zone.
Right.
We oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, and I don't want to throw Mandis under the bus or Chris or Brian, but we kind of, do you feel like as you listen, because I know you do, Lonnie, do we dismiss Davidson County a little much because Democrats are in the majority?
I had this conversation. I had this conversation actually yesterday with Scott Golden. Is nobody will take the Davidson County Republican Party seriously until we start doing 2 things, which is raising money and winning elections. And until we get to a point where we are doing that, and I'm happy to say that this past year we've raised more money than the county party has raised in the last decade. And
that's good.
And so we're hosting a Reagan Day dinner, which we haven't done in the last 5 or 6 years. And so we're starting to get the things in place to be successful in Nashville. But it takes people willing to invest in the local party in order for us to have the resources that we need to pull all this stuff together, because we can't print money. It has to come from somewhere.
Well, and
things aren't free.
And there are plenty of red or red-like people that have money in Davidson County that will send their money to other places.
Yeah,
sadly, because they feel for some reason that it'll be more effective. And I don't know, maybe in certain circumstances they're right, but you'd like to keep that money at home.
We definitely would like to keep the money here. There's so much, like, we are so outmanned as far as, we don't have the unions at our disposal. We don't have the mechanisms of city government at our disposal. And if we want to host an event, it's man on the street, door knocking, getting people out to come do whatever it is the event's for. And those things, it takes money to run the social media ads. It takes money for the mailers and all the other stuff. And so, yeah, we definitely would like to keep that money at home. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to have this Reagan Day dinner coming up on January the 25th, is to help us raise additional funds to support those candidates who qualified for the ballot this time around.
And I'm telling you, folks, this is a big deal, this Reagan Day dinner. And if you don't believe me, look no further than the Master of Ceremonies.
I know. I reached out for the best. I got Matt Murphy. And actually,
You missed on the best.
Oh, no way. And actually, your very own Pamela Furr, she's going to lend her voice talents, and she's going to sing the national anthem that night.
Awesome.
She's great. And actually, Pamela and I we go way back. Yeah, you probably don't know this, but I ran for Congress for the 5th Congressional District against Jim Cooper back in the 2009-10 election season, and that's where I really came to know Pamela.
I have such great respect for you that you put your hat in the ring in 09 and 010.
I ran twice. I ran for Congress, and I've run for Metro Council. And now I tell people I'm a retired candidate. And then I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna run for Republican County Party chair, and she's like, "You're monkeys." And
you're glutton for punishment. Right. So, what's worse? What I want to know, Lonnie, what's worse? Losing the 5th district to Cooper or winning the Davidson County GOP chairmanship?
Listen, I think the running for Congress was just such a great experience. I met so many great and wonderful people. But, being the Republican County Party chair has been a great honor, and I'm happy to serve in that role.
So we've got this event coming up on the 25th. I want to talk about it. Glenn Jacobs will be there.
Glenn Jacobs, he's the mayor of Knox County and former WWE superstar. But I also think he has higher aspirations for the state of Tennessee. And I thought it would be good for people in Nashville and Middle Tennessee to be able to hear from him in a way where they maybe not have a chance. And so we invited him to be our keynote speaker, and he graciously agreed. So we're excited to have him. We'll have some other speakers, including Representative Andy Ogles and some other candidates
That's great.
who are going to be running for office. We'll be doing a presidential preference straw poll that night. It's likely that if we have primaries in some of the congressional seats, it's likely that we'll do some straw polls in those races as well. We'll have a silent auction with some great items. Actually, Congressman Ogles' office, I got it today. They sent us a thing to where Congressman Ogles will do a clay shoot with 2 people at a date to be determined. We've got some LASIK gift certificates from Dr. Ming Wang. Wine. Just the silent auction is going to be great.
I love a silent auction. I'll push a silent auction. I'll go around and just write, numbers and, let the chips fall where they may. It freaks my wife out.
So I hope you buy everything.
Well, I'll do my best until the money runs out, Lonnie. So I would note, I want to circle back to one quick thing.
Yeah.
And we're limited on time, so I want to give people addresses and things that they need to do to go get tickets. But I would note, elections have consequences. Elections matter, and our system of government matters. And had we a 20-member Metro Council as opposed to this 40-member Metro Council, when they voted on the RNC would be here this summer.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think there's any question.
Absolutely.
Because if you lessen the numbers, then you broaden the area in which they serve. I think you limit the fringe elements of the Democrats coming in to serve in these individual council seats. And in doing that, I think cooler heads would have prevailed, and they would have accepted the incredible amount of financial benefit.
$100 million, I think it would have been for the area, for sure.
No question. All right, so how can folks get tickets to the event?
So the best way to find it is gopnashville.org. gopnashville.org. You can sign up to get our emails, and I highly recommend that you do that. But if you scroll down the page a little bit, you'll see a little thing for the Reagan Day dinner. You can click there. It'll take you to the Eventbrite page, and you can order tickets.
Lonnie, I'll be there. You know that.
I know you will.
I'll be emceeing. Glenn Jacobs will be there. Andy Ogles, amongst other local dignitaries.
Yeah,
Lonnie will be
Senator
there.
Haggerty's team will be there.
Oh, come on. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's get Bill there. I'll get Bill there.
There are still, we've got this put together fairly quickly, so we still have a lot of representatives and elected officials who have not yet purchased tickets, but I'm sure plan to.
I have it on good authority that Matt Murphy will be asking John Rich to show up.
Well, I'd love to have him there.
I mean, whether that happens or not remains to be seen. Chances probably slim, but we'll go for it. Lonnie, thank you.
Thank you so much.
GOPnashville.org for more information about the event or the GOP in Davidson County. Thanks, Lonnie, again.
Thanks, Matt.
There's Lonnie Spivak. We'll be back in just a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of people on the super text line are approving of Bel K as president of the world for life. So
We got
that's great
smart
news.
listeners.
That's great news. I mean, we do have the smartest listeners on planet Earth. I don't know that you fully understand what Bel K is going to do with that authority and power. We'll get into what we're doing with authority and power in the rules package in the House of Representatives and the General Assembly with William Lamberth coming up after Mark Green. He's next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 46 degrees, a sunny day in Nashville. That wind advisory going out of effect here tonight at midnight. Should see some clear sunny weather these next couple days. Still the cool wind and possible snow and definitely rain showers comes back into play. Full weather forecast coming up in 2 minutes. The White House won't say whether the president knew ahead of time that his son Hunter would be making a surprise appearance at the House oversight hearing today. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said at this afternoon's press briefing that Hunter is, quote, a private citizen, and dodged questions on whether President Biden was given a heads up. Jay O'Brien has more on Hunter's unexpected appearance on Capitol Hill.
I talked to Democrats on this committee who did not know that Hunter Biden would step into that hearing room earlier today to mark up that resolution that would hold him in contempt of Congress. You get very rare surprises, true surprises here on Capitol Hill, and his presence inside that hearing today was a surprise.
And former President Donald Trump has requested to deliver closing arguments himself on Thursday in the New York civil fraud case. It's up to the judge and Trump's lawyers, who would have to meet certain conditions. The reply to the court is due by today. New York Attorney General Letitia James is asking the judge to fine Trump over $370 million. And congressional Republicans pressing for more answers from the defense secretary about his hospitalization. Lloyd Austin's doctor disclosed yesterday that he's being treated for an infection that was a complication of his surgery for prostate cancer. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
A letter to the secretary from the Republican senators on the Armed Services Committee expresses their hope for his speedy recovery. But these senators also say they're deeply troubled that Lloyd Austin didn't tell the deputy defense secretary about his condition. The letter calls that a massive failure of judgment and negligence. The letter seeks a far more detailed accounting of who knew what when about Austin's hospitalization than the Pentagon and Austin's doctors have so far made public.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All right, friends, Kraft Body Scan wants to see you. I understand that maybe you're feeling tip-top in 2024. Perhaps you're trying to get to better health and you don't notice any symptoms or any problems in your body. Well, be that as it may, are you sure? Do you want to be sure? Well, at Kraft Body Scan, they want you sure. And so in January, they're offering a very special 2024 special, a couple's heart and lung scan for only $149. I've done this, and I absolutely support it and believe in it. It's an over $2,000 value available for you for $149 right now at Kraft Body Scan. Call and book. It's very seamless. It's a quick process. You can find out what's going on internally within your body before it becomes a big deal with symptoms. So you check out the heart, check out the lungs. Did you know that heart disease is the #1 killer in America? Lung disease, the #1 cancer in America. Let's make sure that nothing is going on with the heart and lung scan. And you can also talk about a full body scan at Kraft Body Scan. These CT scans work. It's great technology, and these are great folks. You'll get your report read by a board-certified radiologist, and they will get those findings right back to you. And hopefully everything's A-OK. Here's the telephone number, 615-436-1000, 436-1000. It's Kraft Body Scan, kraftbodyscan.com. All right, gents and ladies, it is the Matt Murphy Show, hour number 3, and a loaded hour it will be. Coming up at 2:35 this afternoon, we'll have a conversation with the House Majority Leader in the state of Tennessee, William Lamberth, talking about the debate on rules that has been rather lengthy in the first days of the General Assembly in Nashville. Right now, we turn our attention to Washington, D.C. Much going on in D.C. Obviously, there's been much discussion about Hunter Biden, and I'm just going to hesitate. I'm not going to comment on it now because I have to get to Mark Green. He's patiently waiting on the Murphy Show hotline right now. But Hunter Biden made an appearance before the Oversight Committee on Capitol Hill, thumbing his nose at the rule of law. There are some that have suggested that he should have been arrested right then. Well, you can't do that until you get the contempt of Congress charge in front of him and until you get the Department of Justice involved. There is a rule of law and there's a process in place. I understand why some folks would suggest that it should have been done, but that's not the way that it works. And Hunter Biden well knew that, which is why he made an appearance to begin with. That, in my estimation, is secondary to the conversation we're about to have with Congressman Mark Green regarding the invasion of illegal aliens across our southern border and what to do about border security. Congressman Green is joining us just after the first of the Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment hearings, and he's here to tell us what, if anything, came of it. Congressman, thank you for your time today. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Man, not a lot going on the Hill, right? I mean, there's just...
Well, it's funny. I was getting reports on what was happening in judiciary, which was pretty interesting. I'm going to have to go back and watch those hearings. But in Homeland, we had some great testimony from 3 attorneys generals, not only about the mess at the border and the impact of these on the states, but the fact that Mayorkas lied to Congress. We described it. They said, yes, that's a lie to Congress. We showed video of his testimony. Yes, that's a lie to Congress. We showed 4 court rulings, and they all agreed that the judiciary has ordered him to cease and desist certain policies which violate the laws of Congress. So he's ignoring the judiciary branch. Of course, he's violating those laws passed by Congress. So he's basically disregarding the legislative branch. And as I understand it, when I took my oath, I was only 17 when I took the oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The Constitution, by the way, not, we don't take an oath to the landmass or the people. We take an oath to defend the Constitution, the idea of America. And that idea is that separation of powers, a legislative branch writes the law, the executive branch executes it, the judiciary interprets it. Well, he's basically done away with that whole construct and gone out there and operated like his own, willy-nilly king. And all of his policies, despite knowing the horrific effects of them, deaths due to fentanyl, human trafficking, human slavery, cartel crime all throughout the United States, terrorists coming across the southern border, all of that, he's doubled down on the policies. He's implemented policies that actually go further while he knows that the impact is horrible. So and you're catching me kind of charged up because I just finished my closing statement, and this guy's got to go. I mean, no one would tolerate a cabinet secretary as lawless as this if they were a Republican.
So, it's your argument. It's the argument on your Homeland Security Committee and by you as chairman that this is not a matter of inefficiency. It's not a matter of ineptitude. It's a matter of intentionality. Correct?
100%. It's intentional. This crisis was self-manufactured by Alejandro Mayorkas' policies. Even Merrick Garland a year ago admitted those policies were being exploited by the cartels. He doesn't fix them. He doubles down on the same thing.
And do you believe this is at the direction of someone else, or is it through the ineptitude of the White House that they allow someone that's intentionally allowing this level of illegal activity to happen across our southern border?
Well, I have a charge to, hold Mayorkas responsible as the chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security. He is the executive leader of that department. Those policies have his signature on them.
Right.
I'm sure if I were to question him, and we're going to do that, but when we've questioned him before, he always says they're my policies, and we're like, okay, if they're your policies, they're around your neck.
So when you say that these are intentional acts on the part of the Homeland Security Secretary, tell the listening audience exactly what evidence you have to support that.
So he has created policies that the cartels, basically the catch and release policies, allowed for people to call home and to say, hey, come to America. Well, as thousands more people come, millions more people come, the cartels seized the advantage. And so they started controlling that migration flow at the cost of anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 per person. They use armbands to determine how much a person owes once they get into the United States. So that's how much crime they have to commit once they get in the United States to pay back the cartel. So Mayorkas is made aware of that his policies are being used by the cartels to overwhelm the Customs and Border Patrol agents at crossing sites and out in the field, and then they just walk around. Merrick Garland said this is what's happening. He turned around and implemented policies that actually expanded on the previous policies. So knowing full well what the cartels were doing, he turned around and made the policies, particularly the CBP-1 Act, which 95.8% of people are immediately released into the country who use that. I mean, it's basically the cartel can fill it out for you for an extra fee. So, yes, this is all very intentional.
The political left wants to conflate and confuse by talking about immigration policy when you and I try to talk about border security. I'm certain that you've noticed that on the Hill, right, Mark? Where if I ask someone on the political left, or if a reporter asks, Karine Jean-Pierre about border security and the ineptitude of the leadership and Alejandro Mayorkas specifically, they immediately start talking about immigration policy. These are not, although they work together when they work well, these are not the same thing, and we have to deal with border security before we ever address immigration policy. Am I right?
No, you are. You're absolutely right in the grand scheme of things. But there is some immigration fixes in H.R. 2. That's why the bill went through both Homeland and Judiciary and came out and was joined together. So there are some fixes to the immigration piece in H.R. 2. It just wasn't fixes that the left wanted. We need to fix immigration. There are lots of problems that aren't addressed in H.R. 2. However, you cannot fix that, which creates even more incentive to come to the United States without closing the border. We must close the border first and then talk about immigration reform. And we felt that Republicans, not me, I wasn't here, the Goodlatte bills, they fell for it, and they allowed for some immigration fixes, and then the left, basically pulled the wool out from under their, pulled the rug out from under their feet and didn't pass the border security stuff. So we're not doing that again. It's border security, then we'll look at immigration.
As chair of Homeland Security in the House of Representatives, I am certain that in addition to dealing with our southern border, you've seen reports of places like New York who suspend school for the day to house hundreds, if not thousands, of illegal alien migrants that have made their way into New York City. I'm certain you've seen this report. What is your response to that?
My response is, that's ridiculous. number one.
It was almost unbelievable, by the way. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I had a hard time believing that it was true.
Well, Anthony D'Esposito, who's a former cop and a member of Congress from New York, was in committee today. He's a Republican on our side of the committee, and he talked about this extensively. I mean, it's really unconscionable what the city is doing, but I gotta believe that the parents of those kids are voting Republican now.
Well, I mean, you would think when their kids have to stay home to house illegal alien migrants, and once again, this isn't about some of the people that want to. I mean, there are people that are loopholing the process. I have a hard time believing, Mark, that prior to the Trump administration and prior to the implementation of Title 42, that we did not have an ability to prevent individuals exploiting the asylum loophole. What was happening then that's not happening now, and how do we go back to that?
They were detaining them. If you follow the law and actually detain people, it's a massive deterrent. And, of course, in Trump's case, he actually had to remain in Mexico, so it was even more of a deterrent, right? And that shut the flow down fairly significantly. But, yeah, I mean, that's all you have to do is, honestly, if we enforce the laws as they're written right now, it'd stop 80% of this flow. And then we would need other things like we got to build a wall, we got to do other things, but 80% would just stop. Great example. And it's the only time the administration actually executed the laws as written. The Haitian, remember that large group of Haitian migrants that came? There was an image under the bridge, and they all kind of came at once, and so they flew them home. They sent them back to Haiti. Well, there aren't mass waves of Haitians coming anymore.
Because they got the message. And I think that was at Del Rio, where the Biden administration's response to the video images of the thousands and thousands of people at Del Rio in Del Rio was to say that Fox News could no longer fly a drone to show people these images because they were embarrassed over the images. So what do you feel like was accomplished today, and what are next steps to see the impeachment process move forward? Because I agree with you, this is intentional. I think it's intentional across the board with the Biden administration. I think their purpose is to infuse as many illegal aliens into this country. I think it's a calculus in order to get votes down the road and to affect the outcomes of population counts in states where you can shift congressional proportionality to various states with more illegal alien activity. What's next, Mark?
So we will continue holding hearings, and we will then write up impeachment articles and vote on those. Basically, the technical term is mark them up. We'll mark up impeachment articles, and then it'll go to the floor of the House for a vote.
Could you shut down the House of Representatives over the issue of border security if you desired? In other words, would Republicans be uniform in their effort to consider this the number one priority on their plate? I understand that budgets are important. I understand it's an election year. It seems to me that this should be the number one issue at your feet every day that you get up and go to Capitol Hill.
Our challenge, and it's been a little bit frustrating, our challenge is that we have very independent-minded, we're not like the Democrats. We're not robotic. We don't do what the speaker says. Right. We try to vote our districts on our side of the aisle, and our districts are different. My district is different than it was before redistricting. My district is different than a ton of districts across the country. For me, border security, number one. So yes, my vote. But there are members in the Republican Party that I'm not sure they would vote to shut down the government in order to get border security. I don't know the whip count, so I'm sorry. I've been focused on these impeachments, so I'm not really up to where everybody is on this. But I would venture to bet that there are a few Republicans who won't shut it down.
Congressman Mark Green, he is a great representative of the state of Tennessee. He's a great chair of the Homeland Security Committee. I promised that I would ask you this the next time I have you on. It's unrelated to this. I know that your name came up with regard to these financial disclosures, and you were number 2, and you released a statement, and we read said statement on the air that you are blind with regard to financial investment. You don't have any control over that. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that publicly because there have been many questions about that.
Yeah, sure. So when I first got in Congress, I sent a letter to my broker who had been managing my investment portfolio. You know, I sold my healthcare company, so we got a little proceeds from that and we invested it. And he managed it. And interestingly enough, the stocks that I've been in for almost, really the one we're in, that I'm in right now that's really big. I've been in it for years. In fact, when Trump was in office, I lost half my portfolio because I'm pretty much in oil and gas, right? And I'm in oil and gas. This guy puts me in oil and gas for two reasons. One, he's really big on that industry and knows it really well. And you should always have an investment broker putting you in places that they know really well. And my investment broker also knows that I don't sit on energy and commerce. There's no way I can get insider trading on oil and gas. Now, if I were in, armed services buying 6 Hour stock, that might be suspicious. But I'm not even on the committee that my portfolio is diversified in. So my guy, the way he does it, he does the investments. He calls me and he says, Mark, you have a PTR, periodic I forget the acronym, periodic something report, periodic, transfer report. Anyway, to fill out. So I go online and I sign it. He's filled it out for me, which is completely in accordance with ethics because they want us to do it this way. So he buys the stock, he puts it in there, I go and I sign it. I don't have a say. And again, I don't invest a lot. He knows I'm not in energy and commerce, so he puts me there. And it did really well this year. I'll tell you the stock, Matt. It's NGL. It's reported. I have to report it, as soon as I buy it. So it's NGL. They do water fracking, and the stock has doubled, more than doubled. So I don't know what to do there. I guess I could take my money and stick it in a mattress, but I gave it to a broker who invested it himself without me knowing, and then told me what to sign, and I signed it. I don't know what else to do.
Mark, who's your guy?
Okay, so I called him and asked him, hey, do you want me to say? And he said, like in the media, and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad to get you all the business you want. He said, no, because the Democrats will hammer me. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense. I'm not going to be able to say his name because he didn't want me to say. But I tell you, me and you, I'll tell you.
I'm respectful of that, and I trust you as the day is long, but what some people are going to do with that answer, right? They're going to suggest that you don't want to tell me because of something shady. You know how that's going to go.
Put yourself in this guy's shoes.
I get it. I get it.
Tell me the Tennessee Holler isn't going to have 1,000 phone calls jamming that guy up.
No, I get it, but I have to ask, right? And I respect your answer, but I know what they'll do with this answer too.
Look at Clarksville. There ain't a whole lot of investment brokers in Clarksville. You probably could process eliminate and figure it out. I use a national level guy, and there's an office in Clarksville.
I think that's a backhanded slam on Clarksville, but I'm going to have to process it before I figure that out.
No, I love my city. No, not at all. I love my city, but there are only so many relative to Nashville, so, I guess people could figure it out. But, I don't want him getting harassed by the political left because he manages my portfolio.
Well, you are good to answer the question. I have to ask the question. You are good to come on with us in the aftermath of a very important Homeland Security hearing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me just say this. I would never insider trade. It is against the bleeping law. I'm not going to be in an orange jumpsuit over this. I took a massive pay cut to come here and work in Congress for the people of Tennessee and for the people of this country. Why? Because when I was 17, I first took the oath, and for 24 years of my life, I was prepared to give my life for the country. I'm not going to turn around and insider trade. It's just crazy. And Jesse Waters and all those guys who just throw a slide up that shows a percentage, and poor Dan Crenshaw, and Dan and I disagree on a lot of stuff. Guy's got it's percentage, right? So you get a congressman. I won't say Dan, but a congressman who has $1,000 that goes to $2,000 because he picked a good stock. this slapping a slide up that has these percentages on it, and one, by the way, the 122% isn't necessarily accurate on me, but that's another point. You just put it up there. I mean, that's irresponsible. And just, hey, these guys must be insider trading. I would never do that, Matt. I would never.
Should the system be worked a different? I don't suggest that you're not doing anything that you're not allowed to do, and I think you're going above and beyond. I know you and I trust you, Mark, but should the system change to give an overabundance of transparency with regard to how people are operating in D.C. to make sure that there's no suggestion of malfeasance?
I've thought about that. I toyed with starting my own ETF as a way to just make it completely blind, a blind trust. We looked at all of that stuff. It just really costs so much money to do. If they created some system where, and I'll put my head around this, but I don't know of how else to do it other than the way I do it. I limit mine by the committees I'm on. So I know other guys don't do that, but that's how I do it. Maybe we put that into the law. You can't invest in stocks that contracts come before your committee. I'm fine with that. I do that anyway.
Mark, thank you for answering the questions, and thank you for what you do in the Homeland Security Committee as its chair. We appreciate your time. We appreciate what you mean for the state of Tennessee, and we'll talk again very soon, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Take care. There's Congressman Mark Green, and asked and answered with regard to his financial investments, and also a great interview with him in the aftermath of the first of the impeachment hearings regarding Alejandro Mayorkas. We'll reflect on it next on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is in Franklin, and they're ready for you. It's 2024, and if you experienced pain throughout 2023, if you feel like that's just a way of your life, I thought that I would have to deal with some pretty major back pain for the rest of my life. It was limiting my ability to play golf. It was limiting my ability to get out and do physical activities in the yard and whatnot. And frankly, I was sick and tired of taking the pills, and I certainly didn't want to consider surgery because I've heard horror stories. And so it was so fortuitous when I came to Nashville that I hooked up with the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, sat down with Dr. Gill, sat down with Dr. Wendy, talked through my issues. They did some x-rays on me, and my initial consultation revealed a number of things, primarily spinal compression. One in my lower back, one in my upper back, and now I feel better than I have in years. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. My lower back is an issue that I'll be going back to Dr. Gill for a lengthy period of time, but it is with good reason because they provide solutions. Thank you to their chiropractic care. You could be the next person that is the success story that has been Dr. Gill for the last 30-plus years. Go see him. Schedule that appointment. 615-882-4838. A team approach at the Dr. Gill Center provides health results for you, your back, or wherever you experience pain. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is in Franklin.
2:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 46 degrees. A sunnier day here today on Music Row. Weather forecast on the way. House Speaker Mike Johnson isn't saying yet whether he'll support a short-term spending bill to keep the government from shutting down next week. Several Senate Republicans say a stopgap measure is likely the only way to keep operations afloat. And Flaherty has more.
With the clock ticking, Senate Republicans are predicting that Congress will have to pass yet another stopgap spending bill to keep major parts of the U.S. from shutting down next week. But when asked if he agrees, House Speaker Mike Johnson won't say, instead urging everyone to give lawmakers time to hash out the details.
It is working in earnest. I would say the pedal's to the metal right now, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic that we can meet the deadline.
Here in Nashville, Channel 4 says a man admits to police he recorded women changing clothes at the Hillsborough Circle YMCA last month. He's charged with unlawful photography. The man came forward after a woman says she caught him holding a cell phone over her in a private changing room. And a state of emergency declared in Ecuador after 11 people have died since the beginning of the week. Violence, primarily caused by gangs and drug trafficking, has led to the United States to monitor the situation there. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says no U.S. troops would be committed to the region, but said that officials are working with the Ecuadorian government.
We're monitoring the situation. We're willing to take concrete steps to improve our cooperation with the government of Ecuador as they begin to deal with the violence and the stressors on the population that this violence has occurred, and I think I'll just leave it at that.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk with you about the world-famous Glock store. You know, WTN has been a partner with Glock store for some time now, and I'm so proud of that partnership because they not only sell wonderful handguns, incredible long guns, accessories galore, but they also understand how important training is, and training is what it's all about when you talk about being a safe and effective gun owner. Many of you are already safe and effective gun owners, and you're looking for a challenge to bring your skills to the next level. Well, here's that challenge. Sentinel Training from Shoot 270, the indoor range at the world-famous Glock store. An immersive training experience designed to instill and advance your skills in crisis response and active shooter scenarios, from realistic scenarios to crisis-related medical training to resource management during crisis solutions. You'll be prepared to handle whatever comes your way. Let's up that game, men and women. The next Sentinel experience is February 3rd at McGill's world-famous Glock store. Due to the intense amount of training and the preparation for each participant, it is limited to only 18 people. For complete information or to sign up at Sentinel, go to shoot270.com. That's shoot270.com. It's the world-famous McGill's Glock store. They understand that owning a weapon is essential to your personal safety and security, but they also understand you need to know how to use it, which is where Shoot270 comes in. Shoot270.com to find out more for this Sentinel training experience on February 3rd. You'll be happy that you signed up. Give a contact today at McGill's world-famous Glock store. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has 2 locations to serve you now. That one location opened just under a year ago. That's in Cool Springs, but the Midtown Nashville location has been there for almost 30 years, serving you men in the Middle Tennessee area. Let's talk about this. Gentlemen, you need to know your numbers, and I understand that we avoid these things. We're manly men. We rub dirt on it and we move on, but sometimes you can't rub dirt on it and move on. Sometimes you need some help, some medical assistance, and figuring out where you are and what's causing some of the issues that you might find yourself in the midst of, like low energy issues, whether it's low energy at the gym, low energy working in the yard, low energy playing with the kids, low energy in the bedroom. These things can all be consistent with low T. You need to find out those numbers. You need to know your blood pressure. You need to know your cholesterol. You need to know your T level. And they can do that at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. And then if they find that you are a patient, you are a client, you are a prospective individual that can benefit from what they offer, they'll talk to you about your various options. It's as simple as a telephone call. Make an appointment today. Do this for yourself and your family in the new year. Go to Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or give them a call. That number is 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Schedule an appointment today with Tennessee Men's Clinic. All right, back after it. Thank you for being with us. 238 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot going on. We got several matters going on Capitol Hill and a lot going on in Nashville on the Hill. Obviously, the General Assembly is just back in session. And toward that end, we have William Lamberth on with us. He is the House Majority Leader in the House of Representatives. He's here to talk about a piece of legislation or two that is a priority for him and some of the rules debate and discussion that's been going on in the beginnings of the General Assembly. Hello, William. Thank you for being on with us. How are you, sir?
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me today. I, in fact, just left an event you'd probably be interested in. We had a bunch of singers and songwriters and folks that make a living with their voice just as you do, and we have a bill that we'll be filing this year to protect your voice, to protect your likeness in the audio world out there, because that's how you make a living. And specifically, this one was for singers and songwriters, but it would include folks like you as well in radio, because your unique voice is what you've worked your entire career to hone. And so I look forward to filing that bill soon, but I just left a press conference on that.
It was you, it was Governor Lee, and a number of other dignitaries and singers, songwriters, and the like. And this is the AI bill, right?
It's one of probably several AI bills that he filed this year, but this one specifically protects you. It protects any singer or songwriter out there from an AI bot, from a computer program, from being able to take your voice, combine it in with maybe a bunch of other voices or ideas that are all the intellectual property of real people, and then passing that off as a fake, as a new song. I saw this several months ago and started working on it, and I'm glad that my counterpart in the Senate, Jack Johnson, who's a good friend of mine, is going to be sponsoring this there, and that the governor is taking the lead on this. But several months ago, I saw, and you probably saw on social media as well, an AI bot had created a new song, and they rolled it out and were very proud of it. Well, that was, quite frankly, extremely concerning to me, because that's not a new song. It's just a combination of the millions of human beings that put their songs out there and on the internet, and that AI bot stole from each one of them just a little bit to create that quote unquote new product, and that's not fair to real human beings. So I'm looking forward to really carrying that bill and pushing it forward.
Well, I look forward to supporting it. I think it's reasonable and good legislation, at least what I understand of it. Talk to me about the debate today. Obviously, members of the Democrat Party, they're in the minority. Republicans have a supermajority. The entire body votes on rules. They're trying to make rules a big deal in the House. It seems to me the rules are the same as they have been in every session, with maybe some slight variances. Talk to me about what was accomplished earlier today. Have you gotten rules in place?
Absolutely. They passed overwhelmingly today. In fact, I think we had even a Democrat or two that voted for them. But, you know, we are a democracy. We are a republic. We are an organized society where we have rules that we all must follow. If I'm going to come on your show, there are certain rules that I need to follow. I call in at a certain time. I play by your rules, or otherwise, guess what? You're probably not going to invite me back on the radio again. And if I violate that too much. Now, thankfully, folks, he doesn't have a whole lot of rules. I mean, he lets us guests pretty much wander far afield. But you know, for us in the legislature, we deal with issues that are life and death. I mean, I filed just a few days ago a bill that would have the death penalty as a possible penalty for someone who's convicted of child rape. If someone someone rapes a child under 12 years of age, we're talking 8, 10, 11-year-olds here that are some of our most innocent Tennesseans, that person would face the death penalty. As we are debating that bill, we need to be debating that bill. That's what our rules do. And today what we did on the floor is we actually expanded some of this so that, we've heard from some of our newer Democratic colleagues. I mean, Representative Jones and Representative Pearson have been very vocal outside the legislature that they have not been heard. Well, I had our staff pull the numbers, and I found the result pretty interesting. Representative Pearson has spoken for 3 hours and 52 minutes on the floor in his short time in the legislature. Representative Clemens actually is right behind that, followed by Representative Jones. I made the top 10, which isn't surprising as majority leader, and I get a little talkative sometimes. But the vast majority of the top 10 were all Democrats. And so there's no doubt about it that the minority party is heard. And some of the rules we put in place will have some accountability measures if folks go off topic, but it also will allow for some bills to get truly equal time, where each side have said we have an hour for discussion, each side will get 30 minutes. And the minority leader and I will kind of run traffic on that. And we can go into any detail of any of the rules you want to, but the basics of what we were under last year, we're still under this year, but we just changed it around a little bit to allow for even more robust debate. And I hope we hear from some more of our Republicans this coming year, because obviously with how gregarious our Democratic colleagues has been, it's been a little bit tough for some of our Republican colleagues to get a word in edgewise.
I think it's just laughably ironic that the same people that are complaining that they don't get an opportunity to speak are the people that have spoken the most over the last. What was the time frame? Because somebody sent me those times. What was the time frame on speaking? Was it that just last session?
So that's just the 113th General Assembly. So in other words, all this past year while we're in the regular session.
Right. So, I mean, and it's loaded on the top end with Democrats. And obviously, and they're the ones claiming that they don't have an opportunity to speak. But the rules are the same for everybody, right? That you get a limited amount of time. I think it's 5 minutes on the House floor, and then you have to stay on the topic at hand. That's it, basically. Those are the basic rules. Is that not correct?
It's not a lot more intricate than that. And kind of as a corollary to that, you can't hurl insults at folks. You can't, call people names, that kind of thing. I mean, it is a cordial, or it's supposed to be, a cordial exchange of ideas and debate on issues. It's not about personal insults. And so you have to stay on topic, and you have to stay away from just hurling personal insults at other members or individuals. I mean, if somebody pointed at somebody in the gallery and started, talking bad about them or something like that, they would be called out of order, because, again, that's not what we're here for.
All right. I don't want to belabor the rules, because I want to talk to you about a couple of other pieces of very important legislation. But on the issue of the rules in committee, David Ritchie proposed a change in the rule that would require a roll call vote in committee. And you and I, just in the interest of disclosure, had a brief conversation about this yesterday, and you opened my eyes to what this would mean in committee if there was a forced vote on every single motion and every single measure. Just walk us through why you believe voice votes are appropriate in committee.
Well, I've been down here 12 years, and when the chairman asks, all in favor signify by saying aye, all opposed nay. That is how city councils throughout the state, most of them operate. That's how school boards, county commissions, that's how the legislature has operated the entire time I have been here, especially in committee, because, 99% of the time it's crystal clear vocally, which is the presiding side. And I will say publicly, I mentioned this to you privately yesterday, but Representative Ritchie, when he stepped at the podium when I was chairing the committee, I said, this is about roll call votes. We'll have a roll call vote on this one. Well, I fully intended to do that, and then as we debated the bill, I completely forgot about it as the chairman. And obviously he could have asked for a roll call vote, but he didn't. And as he stepped away from the podium, it was kind of an interesting exercise in parliamentary procedure there. I offered to go back and take a roll call vote. In that particular vote, there had been 0 yeses. Nobody said yes in that committee, and everybody said no. And he waved me off and said, no, not necessary. But we would have gone back and done a roll call vote. So one thing, those voice votes are very clear in most instances. And the other thing is, if you look up any bill, and in fact, I looked up one of Representative Brian Ritchie's bills from last year that he had used as an example, the House votes were actually recorded perfectly, as they are in every other bill. But the Senate votes, for whatever reason in that particular bill, it went to the General Subcommittee of the Senate, and this was House Bill 405. it indicates on there that the bill failed, that the nays prevailed. So you can look at the members of the committee and see who voted no. And then there are several members there that were recorded themselves as yes. And that's how that process works. And their names are right there. And then unfortunately in the Senate, and I'm not picking on them, it just happens to be this bill because they do a good job of keeping up with their votes too. But on this one, it says votes for Senate Bill 452 by the Senate are not available. And so our votes are right there online for all to see. They're videoed. You can watch it. You can come down and watch it yourself. And if any member has a issue with the way the chairman has called it, they can challenge the ruling to the chair. If any chairman feels like, boy, that was too close to call, they can immediately stop and do what I offered to do yesterday or day before and say, oh, we're going to take a roll call vote on that. Just couldn't quite tell which side was prevailing. And I've done that many times. There's a number of early parliamentary procedures that can be utilized in those type votes for roll call votes. But for the vast majority of the rest of the time, we like to provide efficient and effective and transparent government for the people of Tennessee. And we don't want to waste your time with roll call votes when they are not needed.
If you allow, final question on this, if you allowed the minority to demand a roll call vote on every motion, on everything that happens in committee, how would we see the timing change in terms of the length of the General Assembly?
Well, we tried to pull those numbers. I mean, there's roughly 1,500 bills a year that are filed, and they go through in the House, anywhere from 3 to 5 committees before they hit the floor. So you have some averages in here, but you're talking about thousands of additional minutes, hundreds of additional hours, quite frankly, and days added to the General Assembly session for no reason whatsoever, because any member, when they step up and have a bill before a committee, can say, Mr. Chairman, I'd like a roll call. 3 hands of committee members before you vote can be raised and ask for a roll call. And even after you finish, and if for some reason somebody feels like the chair got it wrong, they can challenge the rule of the chair and still do a roll call. So with all those options, why would we waste your taxpayer dollars with additional time down here paying staff and members to be here over something that is a rare issue? And there are procedural protections there to take care of that issue. And by the way, the votes are on the website right now, even voice votes.
Majority Leader William Lamberth is with us for a couple of additional moments. Let's rapid fire a couple of pieces of legislation, and hopefully we'll have the time as the General Assembly moves on to delve into these a little further. I was asked to ask you about 1640. I looked into 1640. It seems to be a mental health bill. I don't know if it's in relationship to the tragedy that happened earlier this year in Belmont University, but it seems to me that that's a good example of an issue that this would solve. But there are some gun advocates or gun rights advocates that are suggesting that this is some sort of camel nose under the tent. Explain 1640 for everyone.
So and this is directly in relation to the Belmont horrendous tragedy that happened where a young lady who was just down here for school, out on a walk on a bright sunny day, and a bullet comes out of nowhere, strikes and kills her. And then we find out that the person that killed her has been in and out and in and out and in and out of the criminal justice system multiple times, and is so far gone from a mental health and developmental disability standpoint that this person cannot even assist their attorney, cannot even talk to their attorney about their case. Now, I've seen a couple hundred cases like this over the last 20 years of practicing law. These are folks that are so far gone that they need almost round-the-clock care. And as conservatives, if we're serious about community safety and we're serious about protecting our constitutional rights, then we need to have a serious conversation about what we do to balance those rights. Because I believe that we can protect our communities and improve our public safety without giving up any of our rights. But if someone is so crazy that they literally can't even talk to their lawyer, they need to be committed. They do not need to be released into the public. They absolutely are a danger to themselves or others. So they need to be committed to a facility for their safety and the safety of the public. And yes, if you are committed, this has been the law in the state of Tennessee for decades. If you are so far gone that you have to be committed, you lose your right to bear arms. You cannot purchase or possess a firearm. With this bill, you have full due process. There are no ex parte aspects of this whatsoever. I've been against that stuff forever, always will be. I'm never going to support any type of ex parte hearing of that nature. But these folks have appointed counsel or hired counsel with them. They have multiple doctors that evaluated them, and a judge makes a determination as to whether or not the evidence actually meets the criteria for that. And after all of that happens, I want to make sure that a man like that who killed this poor young lady is committed and absolutely is not allowed to have access to firearms, because all the protections we've all said we wanted are built into this bill.
So you believe that were this bill the law at the time that this individual was going through the system, that the likelihood that he would have been involuntarily incarcerated would have been increased, and the possibility of him being on the street and ultimately killing Ms. Ludwig would have been diminished, or it wouldn't have happened.
I absolutely believe that. I mean, and there were a couple of bills that we addressed in the House in the special session that I hope the House and the Senate will pass this year. I've already refiled one of them where a person like this should have had a mental health evaluation much earlier in the process, potentially years ago. I believe if you're arrested for a misdemeanor or a felony and there is a suspicion that you have a severe mental health issue or developmental disability issue, then the state should be paying for a mental health evaluation for that person. We used to do that until about 15, 20 years ago. They cut the budget. And in a $56.2 billion budget, $56.2 billion, that's your tax dollars. That's the combination of that in our budget. This bill would cost about $2.5 million with an M, to do a mental health evaluation for anyone like this while they're still at the misdemeanor stage, long before they commit a robbery or a rape or a murder. So I think we need to start earlier, and I think we need to have those good processes in place to truly identify those individuals within the court system that are severely mentally deranged and are a danger to themselves or others. And then, yes, we need to have those people committed. As part of that committal process, they lose their Second Amendment rights, but it's because they've been through the full due process hearings of all of this with all the evidence presented, and then they are committed because they need help too. But we got to protect our communities from these folks.
A fabulous way to introduce the issue, the rape bill, the death penalty for rape of a child is a very important issue as well that I look forward to talking about moving forward. We look forward to many of these conversations during the General Assembly as time allows. I know your time is very precious during the session. We appreciate you today, William, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Matt, thank you so much. Thank you for getting a good word out there on so many different issues. Many of my friends and neighbors and myself tune into you often, and we appreciate everything that you do all day, brother.
There he is, William Lambert, the House Majority Leader, joining us for a few good minutes. We're just scratching the surface on 1640, just scratching the surface on 1643, which is the death penalty for rape of a child. And other matters. We will continue these discussions. Sadly, out of time now, and I don't even know if we get to talk to Brian. We'll find out next on Super Talk. Winding down an incredibly busy edition of the Matt Murphy Radio Show. We started with conversation about the rules in the House of Representatives and the General Assembly of the State House. We discussed the appearance of Hunter Biden on the in the committee hearing room, discussing the possibility of holding him in contempt of Congress. We talked to Mark Green. We talked to Lonnie Spivak. We talked to William Lamberth moments ago. And now we talked to Brian Wilson, who is preparing, I would expect, a trip to Iowa very soon. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm packing out all the gear and getting ready for all that. Putting some new tires on the truck so that I get there safely, and I'm ready for the as of yesterday -4 degree high on Caucus Day.
And we thank our friends at Busy Bee. We thank our friends at Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project for making it possible for you to get out there and be on the scene. I'm excited about this because you know where the goats graze out there in Iowa. You've been around the block a time or two there, Wilson. So you can get us the real scoop and real skinny from the ground.
Well, it's going to be fun. And again, it'll be the 10th time that I've covered a political season on the road. And it's
10? Wait a minute. 10?
This is my 10th. That's right. My 10th political season.
Presidential elections.
That's right. And so it's good to get out there. And here's the thing. We think we know what's going to happen, but Iowa has a history of surprising people at the last moment. And it's very fluid. And the people of Iowa take this all very, very seriously. So it'll be interesting to see if all the prognostications are correct or whether Iowa has any surprises for us. And we'll get into great detail on that. Also, I've got to start with that chaos up on Capitol Hill today. Oh, Lord, I wish I were there.
I can't
What
wait.
a day.
I can't wait to your reaction to all of this with
I'll
Hunter.
tell you all about it coming up right after the news.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Brian has been in those halls for a long, long time, and his reaction to what Hunter did today, his reaction to the Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment inquiry, all to come on the drive coming up right after Mac Maury's newscast, and that's coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Until tomorrow at high noon, folks, have a wonderful afternoon. So long.